J.K. Rowling's trash. In case you haven't seen it, recently J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter franchise, went to Twitter to spread her transphobia, hate and ignorance. And this got me wondering, at what point do we separate artist and art? Now, I won't go into too much detail about what she wrote on Twitter, although you will see something on screen now. But the short of it is, J.K. Rowling does not believe that people who are born biologically women can become men, and that people who are born biologically men can become women. You know, despite what the scientific community across the spectrum have said. I will put a few links in the description below if you want to get yourself more educated about what the scientific community has to say in the way of gender identity. But the fact that J.K. Rowling spread all of this in a very public view and got very angry when people questioned about it, it doesn't match up to her books, does it? Anybody who's read the Harry Potter series or watched the films will know that the main premise is about younger people fighting against the older generation who have gone out their way to ruin the world for them. Sounds incredibly familiar, doesn't it? It's literally about young people trying to fight against the ignorance and hate of a previous generation. Because don't forget, up until Harry Potter goes to Hogwarts, the entire magical world is very much a case of hating muggles, hating half-bloods, hating squibs, and hating anybody who doesn't conform to the idea of ancestral magical gain. Yes, that's actually a thing. It's about the main magical families constantly inbreeding to keep the magic pure. You're lightning fob? Bam! They don't want to know. They want you in Azkaban. Oh, you got a muggle parent? Well, in which case you have absolutely no opportunity in the magical world to ascend to any kind of stature. Oh, but the same 5 pure blood families have been inbreeding for the last 1,000 years? Yeah, of course, we want them in charge. But then you've got all the children of Hogwarts, Harry Potter and Dumbledore's army. This is a group of people who don't want to spread hate. This is a group of people who want to accept people for who they are. Harry doesn't care that Sirius Black turned into a dog. He still sees them as family. Harry and Dumbledore's army fought against Umbridge when she was trying to have the entirety of Hogwarts under her thumb, with constant amount of rule changes and updates and horrible, horrible punishments. Ouch. But ultimately, the Harry Potter series is about love versus hate. And yeah, J.K. Rowling, she's full of hate. Hateful people who are trying to live a life that they feel comfortable with. And here's the thing, if J.K. Rowling just wanted to remain ignorant and not talk about it, that's still a step up. But the fact is, she went out of her way to tell people her opinion on this. To tell people that she thinks she is right and that other people are wrong on a subject matter that honestly doesn't affect her. She is not a fair representation of the work she has created. That, or we horribly misinterpreted her writing, and people like Voldemort, Ministry of Magic and Umbridge were actually meant to be the good guys in the series, and that the young people are basically rebellious bad guys. Also, can we talk about the ultimate irony? That she doesn't believe that people can be trans, but yet she's written a book series where people could literally transform themselves into cats. I don't mean just cats, I mean half human, half cats, furries, where somebody can literally go for years and pretend to be someone else, well, anybody noticing. But yet, somebody being trans is just way too much for her to understand. Oh, I really hope she does not tweet about that. I really don't want her to say that trans people don't exist in the wizarding world, because she keeps going to Twitter and Pottermore and giving these new ideas to Harry Potter which don't work or match up. So then the question is, who owns Harry Potter now? Okay, yes, I know on a legal and technical term, Warner Brothers own the Wizarding World franchise, and J.K. Rowling is still attached to it in a certain capacity. But I mean, as a concept, who owns it? Well, it belongs to the fans. The fans have seen a story that they have fallen in love with. They've read the book series, they've seen the film franchise, and they love it. And they love it despite the horrible, horrible, horrible messages being sent out by its author. And the fans have separated the two. The fans are able to enjoy the Harry Potter franchise. The fans have seen that her opinions do not match up with what is in the books. Although that does kind of make me theorise that she didn't actually write the books based on any of her own knowledge and had just ripped a lot of it off, or just written what would probably sell. That's a whole thing in itself, I'm sure. J.K. Rowling may have written Harry Potter, but she didn't make it. The Harry Potter franchise was made by the fans. The Harry Potter franchise, the Wizarding World franchise only exists because people love it because people saw this amazing story, this amazing world, and they saw a sense of themselves in it. It reflects a version of the world where people can be strong together, where they can fight against a greater power which is out there to destroy and manipulate lives. The fact that the entire Harry Potter fan base have collectively agreed that nobody knows who read the Harry Potter series is probably one of the best allegories for it that we could possibly get. I think I think in the end Harry Potter was a fluke. She got lucky. She wrote a book and that got passed from publisher to publisher until eventually it got released. Then the book got passed from film studio to film studio until eventually somebody read it and said, yeah, we should make this into a film. And it gave J.K. Rowling a platform for her to spew hate, for her to spew ignorance and downright stupidity. Now, am I glad to live in a world with the Harry Potter franchise? Yeah, I think it's great. But I'm not happy to live in a world where there are transphobes and bigots and just hate-filled assholes spewing such stupid things in such public view. Using a platform built up by people who are not hateful, for people who are accepting, people who are loving, a platform built up by a young generation, a group of people, a huge group of people who want to see a better world. And she's gone out her way to abuse that platform granted to her. If that's her solid opinion, if that's what she truly believes, there's not much you could do. But she should know better than to put it out there and think that people who have read her book will agree with her. But ultimately, they're not a book anymore. They do not represent her, and she does not represent them. The books are represented by the fans, the people who have found good messages in there, people who have found solace and understanding, and they found characters that they can relate to. 2020 and the last 10 years have been really messy. Hate has spread across the world, and it's horrible. It's upsetting. It's destroying people, and its entire lives are being put into categories and being judged and hated because somebody wants to live a life that they can feel happy in. As a collective of fans, as a collective of people who don't support that kind of intolerance, it's amazing to see that we should all step up and say no. And it's not just a case of, oh, it's a bit wrong. It's a case of actively going out there and saying, no, that is not good enough. It's a step in the right direction. It's a step towards a world where people can feel more comfortable and safer. And the best we could do is leave the people who are horrible, like J.K. Rowling, and people who follow through with the same ideology she had. Let them be forgotten. Let history take them away, and let the future be represented by the people who actually care, who have actually stepped up to improve the world for other people. And there we go. I hope you enjoyed the video. It's always good to be able to talk about this stuff and get it off my chest. So until we see you next time, remember, on my channel, you are valid and you are accepted. Until we see you next time, bye for now.